are concerned with as citizens are largely attributed to the current government. There is also the aspect that we cannot overlook, the fact that this country has not been on the right path for a long time. So our move, myself and the people that I'm working with, is that we are trying to bring in a different kind of leadership, a leadership that connects with the people, a leadership that understands and try to put ourselves in the feet or the shoes of the people in the constituency. So we interact a lot with the community to try and understand what they're going through. So where we say you cannot aspire to lead if you do not understand the challenges that are in the community. So we get closer to the community so the community can understand what we stand for and work with us, so that in a sense we are saying let's work together so that in 2026 we don't come to throw monies at people or cook nshima and things like that. They will be our witnesses to say, okay, they understand enough of what we stand for, and then they understand what we mean and what our intentions are. Yeah, so that is largely in a nutshell what we stand for and what we're trying to do and what we're looking forward to.
Can you share a little bit about your background? What got you into now, I'd say, trying to see that I need to ensure that there's change and therefore I will be the change I want to see?
Yes, so, well, that's an interesting question because like the last part of your statement to say the change that I want to see, to be the change that I want to see, that is very important because as individuals, I think we many times point at someone else and then there's always someone else to blame. So when you look at, like I earlier said, when you look at what's happening in our country and the current economic situation, it's a case of where we've been voting for people who promise us things, then what happens is something totally different. Remember when we came from the MMD government, the late Michael Sata, God rest his soul. When he came in, it was about more money in your pockets and a lot of other promises. Some of that did happen, some of that didn't happen. The whole process got overtaken by many things, cadres and a lot of elements that we the citizens didn't find very pleasant. But then we moved on to Edgar Lungu. It was during a reverse time and it was exciting and all those chantings. And then now we are in the go forward and Bali will fix it. But if you look at all those times, you find that a lot of in a lot of instances, like in the Edgar Lungu time, everybody was chanting Nilungu Batushide. But did we sit down to really ask what the man stood for? And if we go back to say, okay, what did he stand for? And you find in many clips that we'll see, he says he had no plan in certain aspects. Or by and large, whether that really stood for what or meant what he really stood for, or what he meant, or what his agenda was, it's hard to say. But we saw a lot of confusion in his leadership. Then we come into the new dawn government, as they're calling it. Much of what, if you look at the transition, in the earlier part of his campaign, the current government and the president, in the earlier part of the campaign, if you remember, the slogan was Umwaiche, Akaiche, those who are there in the in the 2000s. Now, when the age thing was no longer applicable, it switched to Bali will fix it. So I think we need to step back as Zambians and ask ourselves that what are we voting for? Why are we queuing up to vote when we say we are voting for this individual person X who's standing for either councillor, MP or president? What is it that we're looking for? And you see, when I look at the current, the caliber, the acumen and the character of all the people that we have in politics, from our councillor, the councillors in Mandevu, the MP in Mandevu, what do they have that qualifies them to really be leaders? Because leadership is not about the guy who can come up with the best slogan, or the guy who has the most money, or the guy who just gets people to chant his name the best, or who comes up with the best campaign song. Or all those things have got nothing to do with the reality on the ground. The reality on the ground is one of poverty, one of suffering. There's if you go around a community like Mandevu, everywhere you go, there's children as young as 6 going up, walking around rubbish dump sites and picking up plastic bottles to take to those, these businesses that have actually sprung up all across Zambia. Mandevu in particular has a lot of them. These scrap dealers, either scrap metal or scrap plastic, and then they, they spend long hours in rubbish dumps and picking up bottles and waste, going through dirt and filth. So Aside from that, you look on the other side is children rolling drums of 200 liters of water and 20-liter containers, ferrying water from long distances just to bring a bit of water into their homes. You look at the security situation. Look at what these young children in our communities that we've now termed as junkies. A few years ago, we had kids roaming the streets, but this junkie term has become more prominent and more widespread and common today, in the last 5 years particularly. So when I stand as a member of the community of Mandevu, I look to say, what is it that I want to see in Mandevu? How many times am I going to vote for these people who have no clear agenda, aside from a nice slogan, aside from throwing money, buying liquor for the youth? What is it that we can do? So I find it that in my life, there are a few things. In my own small corner, personally in my life, I've had reasonable, I'm not a very wealthy person, but I've had reasonable success. But I find it a big question every time I wake up to say, is it enough that I can have breakfast, lunch, and supper in my household? When I am driving through or walking through the community and I'm seeing kids picking up plastic bottles to go and earn 5 kwacha per day, when I can buy Coca-Cola for 10 kwacha or 15 kwacha. So that is not enough. For me, those are things that, they strike deep in my soul, in my heart, and I look at that and I feel there should be a way that we can provide for this country. There's no real reason why children cannot be children anymore. Children cannot be children because they have to be in rubbish dumps picking up bottles. They cannot be children because you walk around the community, you find a 6-year-old with a chitenge backpack, carrying the 2-year-old. So when is that child going to be a child? They can never be. That child will not grow up. And then you go through the communities, those same children, the 6-year-old who's carrying a 2-year-old on their back is at a house across from a bar, blaring music at 6 a.m. A few days ago, I was in the community in Kabananawad, and I was with my team, and we parked waiting for someone. And that's where we were parked. There was a house on one side of the road, and across was a bar, which had recently opened. And the kids, 5, 6, 7, were twerking while looking across the road where there was women in the bar twerking. So what role models are we providing? What kind of leadership are we providing if the only semblance of a role model they're having is drunkards and women skimpily dressed as early as 6, 7, 8? So those are the challenges that strike certain chords in my heart. Mm-hmm. And growing up in Zambia, I did my school at Olympia Basic, so I basically have had a significant part of my life in the community. So I've come back to the community to say, in my own small way, we have to start somewhere, and Mandevu will be the starting point. Okay.
Now, Mr. Chikatisha, you did touch on popularity. Most of the times, people end up voting for a political party because maybe they have a popular song or they have a popular person. So do you think that you have enough numbers to secure the seat for Mandevu constituency?
That's a good question, because at the end of the day, there's one thing. At the end of the day, they say the proof of the pudding is in the eating. So at the end of the day, what tells is when we get to the election day. But from where we stand right now, we've gathered significant support. We've been at it, talking to people, meeting people, interacting with leaders in communities, understanding their challenges, and trying to see how we can help them. And our support has grown. We have meetings sometimes that we don't expect. We're expecting to meet one person and 100 people turn up. My phone goes ringing every day. People say, "Oh, we would like to meet you, would like to know, we heard about you," and things of that sort. So the numbers are big. The popularity is growing and growing every day, because we've been at it in Mandevu for the last going to 3 years now. So we, again, like I said, we don't want the politics of turning up 3 months before election and cooking shima and giving alcohol and giving 10 kwachas or throwing 10 kwachas at crowds where you end up even causing problems. We want leadership that understands the challenges of the people. You cannot claim or pledge to address the challenges of the people that you do not see.
What current goals and vision do you have for Mandevu constituency?
Well, you see, when we look at Mandevu, when I look at Mandevu, I see everyday challenges of things like water, the poverty, and the children. There are a lot of things that we could address, but primarily we need to look at how we can help people have access to money so that they can feed themselves. So the number one thing is the poverty, which is food. We need to address that. How do we address that? We're talking about empowerment. And when we talk about empowerment, look at the community members, many members, the women who have, cooperatives. They would like to access money so that they can pump into their projects and then make more money to look after their households. But that is not happening at the moment. So that is one thing we would like to correct. Because if you look at the CDF utilization, for instance, it's very, very poor. And then many places that I've gone to, when I ask the question to say, how many of you have had access to CDF funds? None of them puts their hand up. No one. I've not met anyone who puts their hand up and say, oh, I got 2,000 kwacha or 1,000 kwacha or anything. So that is the first thing that we'd like to fix, to help people have access to funds so that they can, the process of empowerment starts from access to funds. And this is something I believe a member of parliament should be able to control or direct or heavily influence.
So why is that the case for those who say they can't access or they haven't accessed the CDF funds? What reason do they give for that?
Okay, I'll give you a practical example. Last year, there was a drive in Mandevu where the certain wards were trying to constitute members of the WDCs. Now, these are the people that feed into the process of administration of the funds and what so on. So what we did, because earlier on we had actually realized that the challenge is that the community members are not involved in the administration of their affairs. So when we established that with my team, we said, okay, let's go about sensitizing people. And we went about sensitizing people, talking to community members in all the wards of Mandevu. And when that time came, we said, please select people you feel can go to these meetings and get selected, get put into these committees. What happened was that all the people who went there, when they got there, what they found was a well-managed machine that kept outsiders. And I'll say outsiders in, quote-unquote outsiders. The people that were not seen as should be part of the clique that is running things. So if you, for instance, are a member of the committee and say, oh, I'd like to be a member of the WDC, and you go to that meeting to say, oh, you are putting your name forward, you'll find, first of all, when you get there, some anonymous, strange person comes to ask you, so, and then that is where the barriers start from. And then when you are able to, if you have the stamina and the confidence to pass that first gate, then you go in and you find what I could only term as cadres. The people who ask you to say, "Vami to man in Wandan, machuka koti, opposition," and things like that. So the whole thing is far from what it is intended to do and achieve. So when you get there, none of them actually succeeded in getting in. Some were told, oh, so this is what you've come for. So if you're so confident and strong enough to get to the last point to say, this is what I've come for and I'm not going anywhere until I get in and get to participate. There were some were being told, oh, yes, we understand. Thank you very much for coming, but it's not today. It's actually tomorrow. So this person then goes back and then comes back the following day and says, oh, what are you doing here? They say, what you're coming for was yesterday. So these are practical examples that we have. This is not a hearsay thing. This is something that we help people to actually participate, to say, because we are saying people need to be involved in the administration of their affairs to effectively, to ensure that the monies and the administration is effective. And that is what we found that is not happening. How is that not happening? Because the people who are actually in power are ensuring that it's not happening. And that is what we need to change.
This is Voice of the People. Once again, you can definitely send us your messages, your thoughts, your opinions, your questions, your queries, whatever that might be, and that's on 0955 997 997 or on 0979 192 485. And now, going back to what drives, or rather what drove and still drives you, inspires you to pursue this path. What would you say that is?
Generally, or more specifically rather, not generally, but more specifically, it's just the poverty. I believe a country so well endowed with natural resources.
I'm just going to hold you there. We do have a call.
Okay.
Hello, good morning.
Madam.
Good morning. You're through to Voice of the People. Who are we speaking to?
Chanda Chikatisha. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
As a MOP.
Yes, sir.
Muhimiza Mandevu. Nankala Mandevu from 206. Sina kuona ni modi party. Inanga ni ground. Kuna ku garden yo so kafuze head bana ku garden adisiyo. You talk is chamento funa bantu bamna Mandevu ni road shading 1. Mumbera? Road shading ngati mwekwanisa kukama na wazesco. Na kutipangila malodi machama kwati ajali kukawata. But when you say Masiri kids, this issue is happening on the India. Go in website of India. Initial industry, according to my parents, you were nine with Chanda to Baramana, Ujamana, Menado Babisimba, Nachokaguri, you were 9. So, be as a proud, I can remember for you, but Cancer MP was beating the way, beating the Chakapuswa, anyone or the Vakashki. We need them. So, that Mabuela, Jamel Mozaka Panamutukila, leave the thing.
Okay, thank you so much for your call. And do you have any comments towards that?
Well, first of all, I didn't even get his name. First of all, I'd like to say thank you for his contribution. And of course, we all have different ways we look at things. He puts it to say, there's problem of street kids. And from what he said, I don't know if I get it right, but it sounds like for him, he doesn't see it as a big problem. But I think when you look at the issue I spoke about where kids are roaming the streets picking up, plastic bottles and stuff, it's a question where you need to say, what is causing this? That is what we see, but what is behind that? That is the poverty we are talking about, and how do we address it? Of course, the issue of the roads, yes, that is something that is very important, and it goes back to, if I go back to where I say, their utilization of funds, the management of the constituency resources, how are they applied? We look at the situation today, I think, unless I'm mistaken, the constituency funds, the CDF is 36 million kwacha every year. So now you tell me, in your house, if you had 1,000 kwacha, and that 1,000 kwacha, you had it last night and this morning you don't have it, would you not be bothered? Or if you had it and you walked into ShopRite and you came out with just a loaf of bread, would you not be bothered? So you know exactly where that 1,000 kwacha went and how that 1,000 kwacha was applied. How is it that we have 36 million kwacha going into Mandevu and we still have untarred roads? We don't have enough clinics. I visited the Chipata Level 1 clinic, interacted with the man who manages, the doctor there. A very pleasant man, very dedicated man, very passionate about his job. He highlighted to me to say, we would like to they've got 7 screening rooms currently, but there's a bit of space just outside the waiting area where he says we could put 7 more screening rooms here. And I've put in an application for these screening rooms and it's never happened. And this is 4 years in. So you can imagine, in these 4 years, if I'm not mistaken, then we're saying 36 million times 4. Where is that 36 million going? Why are children walking long distances drawing water? Why are roads not tarred? Why are there not enough clinics? Why are there not enough police posts? What is happening with that money?
Okay.
How is the utilization?
We just have to cut you off short. Hello, good morning. Yes, it's your voice of the people.
I said my name was Dr. Proud.
Okay, Dr. Proud.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Proud from Garden.
Thank you very much.
I want to repeat over issue of street kid. The issue of street kid is you and me. Bajavana babari wakuri.
Yes.
But all of where sunga basiri them street kid because of production yama parent.
Yes.
You and me, this way unge tenga mwana wako kumpeleka ku school kutankale life ya mwisho. Now that is countrywide. Been in India is there because of death, extended family, so because of death, now you as a member of parliament belong to ruling party, but that work with you, whoever, marodi. Inkarekwa tikawata, naze tikareko na street light kwati muna garden road, to a grade from Chiruba. Right now, Rebecca didn't capture all the there the 15 years in the ruling party, he done nothing. But Shakafusa now why serious? Now when that to Abuela, near been the boy and be like, but to Makuma Chaso day because of Guribe company. When you rob it to government, the good is Tanzania, Seburiwe, Makampani Ambila, Seburio, and Mama de Bazis, was that Bonakachaso Bazare Kakuma. Digo Mogame, Namajanto Azare.
Okay, so, may I? Okay, so when he said his name, say Proud from Garden, Dr.
Yes.
Proud from Garden. It's interesting because I remember him, and he said in the earlier part of the first time he called, just a while ago, he said that Garden. Interesting. When he said his name, I remembered him. I was on Roots FM on the 12th of June, 2024, and he called. And I spoke to him on Roots FM. So it's interesting. I think maybe he may not have recorded or remembered the name, but he's actually heard of me, and I've heard of him. So that's the first step. The next thing is that I think when it says the children, the problem of street children and the street kids and the kids that I refer to, that they are everywhere. In India, he makes reference to India. I suppose maybe he's been to India or has particular interest in India. Well, that's interesting for me because, personally, I've never believed that because it happens at the neighbors, then it's okay that it's happening in my house. If something wrong is happening in Zimbabwe, that doesn't make it right in Zambia. If something wrong is happening in Congo, that doesn't make it right. If something wrong is happening in India, I'm not going to walk around the streets of Lusaka and say, oh, yeah, this is fine because, there's filth in country X or filth in Zambia is basically okay. No, there's a particular way we need to live. We need to set a bar and a standard for our own lives. There are countries that we can take examples from that are doing things exceptionally well. To be clear, even Jesus said, the poor will always be with you. But what we should not forget is that what is the magnitude of that poverty? Even in America there's poverty, even in the UK there's poverty, in every country there's poverty. It is the scale and magnitude of the poverty. The scale and magnitude of the poverty in Zambia is unacceptable. We can have poor people who can, maybe eat once a day or twice a day. Maybe we could say, yeah, we are trying and at least able to eat once a day. Go through Mandevu, there are people who can't eat in 2-3 days. So that is not the poverty that I'm willing to live with. Respectfully, he says this problem is there in other countries, India or anywhere. I decline to accept his point of view to say, then we need to look at other things. I think we need to look at everything.
So I think maybe what he was saying was the fact that once jobs or industries are brought to Mandevu is when you see all these other things like the junkies, the people who are drinking alcohol, all of that will stop. So once the root cause of the problem is ended or rather tackled,
yes,
is when everything else will happen because it's everywhere else in the world. I believe that's how he was phrasing it as.
Well, okay. So granted, yes. When we look at issues, the economic affairs of the country, and that is why I spoke about empowerment and how the resources of the constituency and the country at large are being managed. There's indeed poor management of our national resources because we hear, companies that are being given, tax holidays, while, we are suffering. There's not enough taxes being collected. We are being charged for every transaction on Airtel money or MTN money or any of these mobile money transfers. But there are companies that are going without paying the right amount of taxes. We saw what happened with the Emerald tax that was put up and then reduced because the people who are actually getting it complaining. So it's like if I went to ZRA and complained that, my pay-as-UN is too high, and ZRA says, enough Zambians have complained pay-as-UN is too high, and they reduce it. They've never done that. So how come they can do that for, a band of people who are, harvesting or getting our resources? And those are the resources that are supposed to address the issues that rightly we are putting across. And like Mr. Dr. Proud said, that we need jobs, we need resources distributed in a meaningful and more, encompassing, inclusive manner.
How can you currently rate the Mandevu MP who is current right now?
The interesting thing about that question is that if I wasn't running and if I didn't have interest in politics, I probably wouldn't even know him. Yes, yes.
And then Dr. Proud said he hasn't seen you before as well. Sometimes people will vote for you in office and then you'll probably move to a better household and then they won't see you. So how sure are they or are you that once they vote you in office, you also won't disappear?
I tell people that the question you ask is a good one in the sense that that's a question that a lot of people that we interact with ask to say, how do we know that you not, after we vote for you, you suddenly don't pick up our phone calls, you don't turn up, and you move to, like you've put it, a different location. That is why, if you remember when I started, I said...
sorry to cut you off, do you live in Mandevu?
Yes.
Okay.
So that is why I said when I was saying people need to know the leaders that they are voting for. And we need to, as much as we who aspire for public office need to understand what people are going through, the people also need to know who I am, what I stand for. Now, part of knowing who I am, what I stand for, is the day-to-day interactions. So in Bemba, we say, so as we go through the process of knowing each other, as I interact more and more in the community, like I earlier mentioned, say we try to interact as much as possible. We have interactions throughout every week, not just once a week, but minimum 3 times a week. So the honest truth about the question of whether one can run away or not run away, the closest any voter can get is knowing enough in terms of personal interactions, activities of the candidate, things around the candidate, the people around the candidate, more interactions to get a good understanding of what they stand for and what they mean. Understanding what they stand for can give you a good indication to say, are they here for the long term or the short term, meaning the short term being just the elections. So more and more when we interact, what we do for the community, the engagements that we're having, we talk to the community and say, we're not just interested in 2026, we're interested in ensuring that the community moves forward. For instance, we've been involved with community groups, cooperatives, where some of them, many we've helped with things like raw materials for their peanut butter businesses. We've helped youths with footballs and jerseys and things of that sort. We've helped other community and community groups with sewing machines and things of that sort. We've recently we helped 20 students a few weeks back to get university scholarships, which we are funding. And then we happened to get another opportunity. Now we've opened up, we have another 200 positions for students, youth from Mandevu to actually get university studies. So what we are saying is, when you go to any of our meetings, we're not focusing on 2026 per se to say, oh, we are doing this, so you vote for us. If you go to any of our meetings, we're not necessarily talking about you vote for us. Yes, we want a vote. Make no mistake about that. But we're more interested in empowerment and ensuring that we, in our own small way, try to uplift the lives of the people of Mandevu.
I'm going to take you back to the question, how can you evaluate the current MP for Mandevu?
Yes, please. So, like I started, I said, if I wasn't involved in politics and didn't have an interest in politics, I probably would not know him. Because, again, the many meetings that we've had, very few people know him. Many people say, oh, we voted PF. You know that trend that was there. They were voting for the party, not the individual. And it goes back to what I said earlier to say, what are the characteristics of the people? What is the caliber? What are the qualities of the individual that we're voting for? If you remember, many people, like I said, we had people who were voting in the voting booths, PF president, PF MP, PF councillor, PF, so on and so forth. But nobody really knew who this person was. And if you interact with some of these individuals, they'll talk more about what they can do in terms of, oh, I'm X by, you have the name like, oh, I'm Dangote because I carry big money. Things like that. But what does that do for person X who's not eating? Person X who has no job? Person X who, when they're trying to get to a hospital and it's late at night, an ambulance can't get to their home because of the dilapidated or non-existent road. It does nothing. So it goes back to the question I was saying, what is the character of these individuals aspiring for a position, or what are they really talking about aside from dishing out? It's easy to dish out money and get popular. It's easy to cook mshima and get popular. But it's harder to talk to people, reason with them, and get them to buy into your message.
Once again, this is Voice of the People. You can send us your messages, your thoughts, your queries, your opinions. That's on 0955 997 997 or on 0979 192 485. And now, taking, I would say, a glance at the fact that you are an independent candidate rather than being backed by a political party, how have you fared, being that you are not underneath a big machinery of a party that's had years of building their reputation, and you as an individual?
Okay, it's I like the way you phrase it, to say you have a big machine behind you and so on and so forth. That's really how many of us look at it, to say, oh, I want to be part of a party because there's that big backing. It's all a facade. That's the truth about it. Go to any of these political parties. I don't know, maybe the party in power, but first of all, there's no money from the party that comes in. I've been on the ground in Mandevu for a long time. I've met many in the opposition parties and a few in the ruling party. There's no money going to them. If you go on the ground right now, very few of them are actually on the ground in Mandevu, actively campaigning. Some have dropped out because of the same issue where their parties are not funding them. So there's no money. You have to actively go and meet people. So the money will start coming in as we go towards the end of this year and into next year, when now they are desperate to secure their footing in a particular constituency and so on and so forth. But there's no money. So this understanding that, oh, when I'm in a party, things will go this way or the other way, is not true. The next thing is reputation. Reputation of the party. Go around, when we go around Mandevu, we ask people there, they'll tell you, I was in a political party before. You know, in my life, I've been a member of 3 political parties. The last one I left a few years back, and when...
Why did you leave?
Okay, so I'll give a bit about that. So when I left, when I would be campaigning before I left the party, when I left, I would go back to say, oh, look, I'm no longer part of that party. I'm standing as an independent now. And I had more support. More people in the community coming out and saying, thank you very much. We understood your message, but we didn't like the party you are with. So now that you are independent, we are actually very interested in following you and working with you. Now, why, to your question to say why I left the party, is because I understood that many parties have very little interest in the welfare of the people.
Which party was it?
I prefer not to say, because I don't want to create a situation where it sounds like I'm attacking the particular party. But I'll tell you this. I got very close to, as I phrase it, like I got close to the kitchen and realized that what was the cooking in there was not right. So many parties, I've had interactions with other, where you sit down with other individuals in other political parties and you say, what I found here, and they say, you think that is something. You wait until you hear what happened with my party on this side. So it's the same thing. It's all about power and control. So it's jostling for power in the ranks. It's about power and control with the people who hold the power, and then the guys, and then it creates a whole culture of subservience. Where I have to, it's the president, or it's the secretary general, it's the so-and-so who holds a position, and I have to kind of grovel to them. So I realized that actually, as a candidate or as an individual who means well to represent the people and understand what the people are going through, it puts you away from the needs and the plight of the people. So what you end up having is an agenda driven by the party, not by the people. And I think as a person who wants to stand and represent the people and really alleviate the many challenges that we're having, you need to listen more to the people and not what the party says. If you go back, it's common knowledge that in previous years or many years, candidates who would want to stand would go to the party and not to the people. And when the time comes for the filing of nominations, they would have gotten their adoption certificate from the party and not the people. And then you'd find that the guy who's been on the ground trying to canvass support and whatnot is not the guy who selected. Why? Because, he's some other guy who has more money than him.
Don't you think sometimes popularity sells more?
Like I earlier said, I agree with you. Yes, popularity sells more. But remember, before you get popular, you have to get popular. So how do you get popular is the question. And like I earlier said, it's easy to get popular by throwing around 10 kwachas. But what do you cause when you throw around 10 kwachas? Chaos. What do you cause when you throw around 10 kwachas or kukushima or buy people alcohol? It's disconnect between what you are proposing or what you stand for and what the people need. So I'll go and have no real agenda, but have a nice slogan and tons of money, throw that cash around, and everybody will be like, ndiye bantu baje. And they go and vote for me. But do they know what I stand for? And would they blame me if the day after elections I even shift from Mandevu and go and sit somewhere else? Because they didn't even understand what I stood for. Or when I go into parliament, when the aspirations are left, I go and vote right. Or the aspirations are right, I go and vote left. Would they blame me? Because they don't understand. When you look at, in a simplistic sense, I like to think of it like this. When you look at the Western world, like America and Europe and England particularly, you'll find that there are largely two sides of the coin. It's you're either liberal or conservative, one side or the other. Generally in life it's there. Even in the Bible it says you're either hot or cold. There's no in between. Of course in politics there's center right, center left, and all those things that we come up with. Now, those have to do with principles. What do you stand for? what if you go into the community and ask many of these people, or even these candidates or the MPs or whoever, and say, what do you stand for? Is it left or right? If they can tell you for sure to say, I stand left or right, we would not have this situation of where one jumps from this party today into the next party tomorrow and into another party. They jump like that, like an individual who's coming from town and trying to get to Charleston. You get on any bus as long as it gets you there. The agenda is not about the people, it's about getting into office. That is what the problem is. They are not principled, they do not even understand what they stand for, except for the one thing, that they want control and power.
You also spoke about poor road infrastructure. Our caller, Dr. Proud, actually spoke about poor road infrastructure that is Mandevu constituency. And you also said that the CDF, which was availed to the constituency, has been underutilized. So what are you going to do to fully utilize it yourself if you are voted for?
First of all, the thing that I spoke about is that there should be community involvement in the order of priority of projects that are being targeted for utilization of these funds. So it shouldn't be me as MP with whoever people, or the WDC and whichever committee sits and decides to say, oh, this 2 million and 3 million and 4 million constituting, making up the total, so this portion goes to X or Y. It should be the people actually, not made up, committees that are not representative of the people. It should actually be representation from the community deciding, because your priority, we could be in the same country, but your priority and my priorities will be different. I could go into Mandevu and find, when I see the plight of children rolling drums of water, I say, oh, the priority is water. But maybe someone else is thinking the priority is the road or it's the clinic. So that priority has to come from the people. That's the first thing. The next thing is that the utilization, when you look at the communities, the roads, for instance, the quickest way would be pavers. Why aren't we utilizing pavers? We've got graders and compactors. Why aren't we utilizing those things? So, look, the president is on record where he was addressing, I think, was it cabinet or some gathering, and then he was upset. He said, these machines at the offices, I don't know if it's council offices or constituency offices, they are sitting there. And then the minders complained and said, oh, there's no fuel. Then they've made a budget for fuel, but nothing is still being done. So what is that? It's a lack of leadership and lack of concern. Because if you make yourself part of the community and understand what they are going through, then because you are seeing what they are going through. But these people are devolved from the suffering of the people. So we can use the equipment that is already there, flatten the roads, put pavers, we sort out a problem. If we talk about the water, individuals, when you buy a plot and build a house, you drill a borehole at your own house, right? So what would be wrong with drilling boreholes, not at every house, but in selected sections? Smaller localized water reticulation for the communities. What would be wrong with that? Wouldn't that 36 million cover some of those costs? This is what we're talking about when we say funds or resource utilization, better management, and involvement in the plight of the people to make it your problem, because you understand and then you better apply the resources of the constituency.
So we have received a message saying, here in Kabanana, we need sanity. Most of the youth are doing nothing. Help us get trades, e.g. driving license, then help us get jobs. Looking forward to meeting you, sir. And this is from Emmanuel from Kabanana.
Yes, please. Well, thank you very much, Emmanuel, for that. And in addition to what I earlier spoke about, the 200 positions for students from Mandevu, we also have a number of positions that we're offering for skills training. These are also funded. So the people in Kabanana can access these skills training, and also not just in Kabanana, but across Mandevu. So these are some of the things that we're doing. As he rightly put it, the youths are doing nothing. And that is why we're trying to reach out to help the youth to say, like I earlier put it, we need the right kind of inspiration, the right role models. The children cannot have, we've basically turned into a country that is creating criminals. A country that is creating criminals, a country that is creating more street vendors, more junkies, more prostitutes, child prostitutes, because what else is there to do? So those are some of the things that we're trying to do in our own small way to try and alleviate. And again, like I said, as we are going towards 2026 and beyond, we want the people to say, we worked with these people, we worked with this man, and we understand enough about what he stands for and what he plans to do for Mandevu.
Once again, this is Voice of the People. You can send us your messages. Call us up. That's on 0955 997 997 or on 0979 192 485. And so now just to take you back a little bit to the beginning when I'm finding out a little bit more about you. You did touch on what the problems you've seen or noticed within Mandevu are, but about the man, tell us a bit about your journey, where you started from to where you are now.
The journey in Mandevu.
Yes.
Okay, so like I said, I've been a member of 3 political parties in my life.
Why can't you name them though?
Okay, so in the early part of 2000, I was involved in UNIP. So in UNIP, and in a sense, so let me tell you what, there's a bit of a story. When I was in secondary school, I was in boarding school in Mansa at St. Clement's. So on Sundays, we would have very slow traffic towards, we had these ladies who would sell to Tedem, Balala and things like that. And then on Sundays, the very few of them would come to that, we would call it at Pazanzi. So on Sundays, very few. And on that Sunday, there were only 2. Now, so I got there with my little money, trying to buy some to Tedem, Balala, Fida. And then one of the 2 ladies.
We'll just have to cut you off short. Let's pick up this caller. Hello, good morning.
Good morning. Mauka Bwanji.
Tauka bwino Mauka Bwanji na imwe.
Bwino. Vasogoreri Mauka Bwanji uko?
Tauka kanama.
Iyo, tauka.
Tikamba na bandani?
Oh, Chimweni Mtonga from Minudu Mtumbi.
Okay, you can go ahead with the contribution.
Wanu cheninga kambe maskiuzi yamaoneka pali ino time, but manchito ndiye yasoba just because of government yatu serious kutipasa manchito ese vantu manchito vapasa ma out countries apo peveni share contribute poverty level in Zambia. So kuli in government yatu yationongera wikaliro just because of fake promises not developing in Zambia. Veve vanalangana che parwavo che yakuti ati a pocket yanga izure ningaleko at least maybe kaya vacha fundarization ija yakuti ati vakachairepo campaign 2026 no wonder pesa ati malaiti sivatipasa vantu makomboni mavutika malaiti mababamani apamanje masaluni vonse sivasebenza just because of va president vatu na cabinet na ndani na government yao magulisa malaiti kuna Namibia apo pesa vacha increase poverty level. Onani ngani ya unga vantu vagula usiku kwa timonga vacha anjuga. So bali hivi vonse hivi va president vatu ma promises siyaona vanakamba tipamera sivazaiona but apamanje yankala increase pamera fika pa 25 kwacha from 2 kwacha 15 kapa 25 kwacha pamera imozi sugar salad upeza 5 kwacha 10 kwacha sugar salad then manje va president vatu vakangiwa pali hivyo veve bonde veni kamba government yatu tichinje maybe tilitego venangu. Okay, mseleze bwino
zikomo kwambiri batonga. Okay, maybe you can just continue your story. Yes, and then you answer.
All right. So I was back at the Zanzi trying to buy some tute, and then the 2 ladies were there. One of them had a child, a baby on her back, and the baby was restless, crying, and she was trying to set herself up so that she can start roasting her food. And then the other lady, because the baby was being restless and making loud cries, and so the other lady asked to say, "Nishta mwach bashira kunganda." And the lady with the child then says, then the other lady goes and says, what about the father? And then the lady says, and what followed was a bit vulgar for it, but he says,
yeah.
So I was young at the time. That was quite profound, and it struck deep. Every time I tell that story, it feels like I heard it yesterday. It caused in me a question to say, why? Why are we living in a country where this is happening? And at the time, no real intentions of going into politics. In about the 99, 2000s, Kawata area, I met a very good gentleman. I haven't checked up on him. I don't know if he's still alive. I hope he is. Mr. Tambulukan. A very good gentleman who joined UNIP. And when I was in UNIP, leading up to the elections, I saw the craziest of violence. An individual was, suspected of. There was two factions in UNIP. An individual was suspecting of back-channeling information to the other faction, and then he was caught. He was caught and then was brought into the office and was being pummeled. So I was downstairs, and then fortunately, in grade 12 to Apuishako, the cadres there none of them who were pummeling the guy could write. So then they said, we need someone to, as we're interrogating, to take down the notes. Then someone said, we have a guy downstairs. I think he can write. So they called me up, and what I found was very devastating. And again, those are some of the images I can't get out of my head. The guy was bloodied on the floor, being stamped on. I took down everything, the notes. In that situation, you put on a brave face, you act like you are there. I took down the notes and everything, and I walked out. I was walking home, and I was so disturbed and conflicted. I didn't know what to do. Understanding what I had just seen, I know the ramifications or what would happen to me if I shared this information. But I was so heavily conflicted. I was walking past, I think that is the section of town where there was Phoenix and that side back then. And I almost walked into Phoenix or one of those radio stations there to say, look, this is what happened today, and this is what I have. But I figured they'll get to me before I even get downstairs. I tore up the piece of paper, and that was the last time I went back. So I stayed out of politics. And after many years later, I joined NAREP. I got into NAREP. The idea of politics for me has always been to try and understand how we can help people. But I wasn't seeing that. What I saw in UNIP was totally different. When I went into NAREP, I found that there was something totally crazy. There was people in leadership bickering over 100 kwachas and things of that sort. I couldn't understand that. You raise money to go and mobilize, and it ends up in people's pockets. I couldn't understand that. So I was getting conflicted every time. I then years later left. Then later on I joined the Socialist Party. Went in there, and what I was finding is that the same thing was recurring. There's no connection from the people to the candidate. It's the candidate to the party. It's about who gave you the authority to campaign. You've not been selected. Who gave you the authority to go and sit with the people? So now I ask you this question. In politics or in people representation, who gives the mandate to the candidate? Is it the party or the people? I think it should be the people, not the party. The people should say, we want this person because we understand him, we feel what he's doing, and we see where he's going, and we're trusting him to carry our voice into parliament or whichever office. And then you, as the party we belong to, we want this guy, so take this guy. But what happens now is that you people will tell you who's going to stand for you. Is that normal? Is that right? No, it's not. It's not representation. It's authority and power and control, and that doesn't sit well. So I left. And that's why I said, being an independent, however long the road is, that's the road that I am on.
Okay, definitely summed up. And well, as we get to close up Voice of the People, for all those who have listened to this interview and they say, we want to meet this man, we want to hear what more you have to say. I'm from Mandevu and I've got issues that need to be heard. How can they get in contact with you? How can they ensure that their voice is heard?
Okay, so they can get in touch with us on 0973 771094. That's 0973 771094. So there are a lot of issues that we're working on. We are trying to communicate with the community to try and understand what they're going through, and also to help them understand what we stand for. We believe leadership should not be because I want to stand. It should be because there are issues that need to be addressed, and I feel I could contribute to the economy or the political landscape in a more meaningful manner, not just politics of buying alcohol and feeding people in shimas at meetings and buying tenges and t-shirts, but we want people to understand what is actually going on. So we avoid these issues where things like the current situation where you have a constituency amendment situation which people don't understand, which is